Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Minding My Mental Health. I am Tanitria Williams, the host and facilitator of this broadcast, and I am really thankful that you are joining me today. If you are a person who watches most of the time, you already know what I want you to do. But if not, let me explain. I want you to hashtag live and let me know where you're watching from. If you are in the area, I'm sorry, if you are available, if you could also tag your friends, your family, share this broadcast to your story, to your page, to groups that you have the ability to share to. Again, hashtag live. Let me know where you're watching from. If you are not watching live, you'll know you're not watching live because it won't have the word live in the top in a red box. If you are watching the replay, that's totally okay. I want you to hashtag replay. Again, let me know where you are watching from. I want you to tag your friends and your family. This is a topic that I think is very, very important. It is something that I think is needed today in a major way. And it's something that most of us can acknowledge and identify with because we have all dealt with disappointment on some level in our life. And so, again, today we're going to talk about dealing with disappointment. So, if you will, just again, hashtag live, let me know where you're watching from, tag your friends, tag your family, so that we can really jump in here. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, today we're talking about dealing with disappointment. I know that disappointment is pretty much a universal experience. At some point in life, we have all felt disappointed. We have all dealt with feeling betrayed, feeling hurt, feeling let down by someone or something that we love or care about. And so today is no different. Now, the reason, I'm going to be honest, that one of the main reasons that I chose this topic is today because I saw that sentiment a lot on yesterday. So you guys know here in the US, we had our election. And of course, what our election, we elected state officials and all of that, but it was also the presidential election. And for a lot of people, they did not get the results that they wanted. And of course, every year you have, again, both sides because somebody's not going to get the results they wanted. But I saw with a lot of people saying they were deeply disappointed, deeply hurt, deeply saddened with the results of the election. And so I wanted to take some time to really sit back and talk about how to deal with that. Okay, so what is disappointment? Disappointment really is the feeling of sadness and frustration that arises when we have unmet expectations, or when we have unfulfilled desires. So if you expect something and then that's not met, we tend to have disappointment. Again, this is something that we have all dealt with. Put a one in the comment if you felt disappointed recently, or you're currently even dealing with some feelings of disappointment. I see some people on here that are tagging and sharing. So thank you guys so much. Please continue to tag and share your friends with your friends and family. So again, what happens? There's a gap between our expectations and our reality, which that opens the door for the disappointment or discouragement. Our bodies are really designed, our brain is designed to have a reward system, which is activated when we have an anticipated outcome, a positive outcome, and we get that. So if you say, when I get to the restaurant, I'm going to order this thing on the menu, and you're very excited about going to that restaurant, and you've already kind of prepared your mind, prepared yourself to eat that food. And when you get there, if they tell you that they are out of that item, you are going to be disappointed. So there is a level of disappointment, but then there is a deeper level of disappointment, which is what I heard a lot this week with the election results. And that deeper level was, I thought people would vote a certain way in a manner that I thought would be in my best interest. And when I saw people that didn't do that, it hurt me. Number one, because I don't know how my life is going to look as a result of the results of the election. There was a fear, there was a deep hurt, there was a deep anger because people didn't feel. And I'm going to be honest, I'm talking specifically to women. That's where I saw it the most. I saw it with women. I saw it with Black women. There was this deep hurt because you thought people would step in and have a sense of protection for you. And that didn't happen in the way that you thought it was going to happen. And so it was a deep hurt. It was a deep anger. I saw a lot of people said, I'm really struggling going into work, trying to pretend that I'm okay. I'm really struggling trying to keep a positive attitude. And so, again, disappointment happens to all of us, but there is a level of disappointment that's kind of, yeah, I wanted to buy the red shirt. They were out, so I had to get the purple one. That's disappointment, but our life isn't usually deeply impacted by that type of disappointment. But when you're talking about some deeper disappointment, when someone hurts you, that you expected to protect you, that's a deep disappointment. When someone says something or betrays you that you thought you had a different type of relationship with, that's a deep type of disappointment. So some of the common sources of disappointment are, it comes in our relationships. Again, when we think that someone actually cares about us and we learn that they didn't care about us, or we think we're about to get a promotion and someone else gets that promotion. You've been working on it. They've been hinting around that that you're going to get the promotion. You don't get the promotion. That's a deep disappointment. You have a goal. Maybe you have a goal that you're going to accomplish something and you don't hit that goal. These are all sources of disappointment. Now, we're talking about minding my mental health, right? Why is disappointment connected to mental health? Because if we don't learn how to effectively deal with disappointment, it can very quickly turn into high anxiety. It can quickly turn into isolation, because we tend to isolate because we say, I'm not going to let other people hurt me again. You may have heard people say things like, that's why I don't ever expect anything from anybody, because that way I don't get hurt. We build these walls. We build this really cold heart when we have repeated disappointment, or sometimes just one big, deep disappointment. So it can turn into, again, anxiety, depression, isolation, fear, aggression. All of these things can happen as a result of disappointment. So that's why we're talking about it on Minding My Mental Health. Karen says, I almost cussed when I walked into Zumba and saw two women with American flag shirts on. So there's that, which means something as simple as a flag. For Karen, that was a trigger that you probably voted in a way that doesn't align with what I wanted. And so Karen said that was an immediate trigger that brought back the disappointment, right? And so those things can happen, and they're going to happen in life. You're going to see things that trigger you to remember the disappointment that you're experiencing. Prolonged disappointment can lead to feelings of helplessness. Again, even learned helplessness. I don't know if you guys have really talked much about learned helplessness, but learned helplessness is the idea of, I keep trying something and it doesn't make an impact. So I just say, what's the use of trying? And so I learned to not try. And so many times people say, I did that and it didn't work. I did that and it didn't work. And so I'm helpless. Nothing I do will work. Well, the truth of the matter is, you tried some things and maybe they didn't work. Maybe you need to tweak them, but something will work, right? But if you have prolonged disappointment, oftentimes that will lead to people developing that idea or that concept of learned helplessness. So how do we deal with it? The first step, and if you're taking notes, feel free. The first thing is to acknowledge the feeling. Acknowledge it. Okay, just start right there. Not putting on a happy face, not pretending you're okay with it. Acknowledge it. I feel sad. I feel angry. I feel hurt. I feel disappointed. Acknowledging it, naming it. And this part is important. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to feel it. So many times, particularly, again, I'm speaking specifically to Black women at this moment. So many times Black women have been told, don't show weakness. Pretend that you're okay, bear it, grin and bear it, and just get out there and do it. And I don't necessarily know if white women are always taught the same thing. I think sometimes when things happen, they were given that space to be able to say, no, I'm angry, I'm sad. And I think Black women, we were either directly or sometimes indirectly taught, you don't have that luxury to feel it. You don't have the luxury to feel it. You got kids to raise. You got business to take care of. You better wipe those tears and get out there and handle business. And so for a lot of Black people, or Black women specifically, we felt this thing of, I cannot show that I was hurt, that I'm disappointed. But let me just stop that and tell you right now, you have a right to feel the anger, feel the hurt. Put your big girl panties on and keep going. So we were always told to suppress our emotions, suppress it, suppress it, suppress it. And it's not healthy, because guess what? It still comes out. It still comes out in a very unhealthy way. Sometimes the unhealthy way is internal physical issues. Sometimes the healthy way is snapping on somebody and going off on people that didn't hurt us. Or sometimes the unhealthy way may be developing that coldness, that shield of protection that we think helps keep our heart from getting hurt again. And so it still shows up. So I'm telling you to give yourself permission to actually feel the hurt, feel the disappointment. Now, I'm not telling you to stay there forever. I am telling you to allow yourself a moment to feel it. Okay. So why is that important? Because you get to validate your own emotions. Sometimes we talk about people not validating our feelings. Let's be honest. Sometimes we don't validate our own feelings. We go, I shouldn't feel that. And we suppress it. Allow yourself to feel it. Validate your own emotions. Yes, I feel hurt. Yes, I feel disappointed that someone would do this thing, whatever the disappointment that you're dealing with. I'm using the election as an example, but it may be something else in your life. Yes, you may be hurt, but allow yourself to say, no, that really did hurt me. Allow yourself to cry. Take a deep breath and I allowed myself to feel that. I was in the pickup line yesterday, picking up the girls from school, and I was watching a video, and someone was on there and they were talking about their disappointment. And as they were talking about it, they started to cry. And immediately I could feel my eyes fill up with tears, and I started to cry. But I allowed myself to do that. I didn't go, oh, this is stupid. I allowed myself to sit in that moment and go, yeah, I feel your pain, sis. I feel pain as well. And I'm going to allow myself to feel that pain. Also, it helps if you can identify what that feeling is and kind of help you to process through that. The next thing when you do that, acknowledge the feeling, recognize and acknowledge the feeling, and allow yourself to feel. The next thing we're talking about is self-reflection. So begin to say, why does this hurt me so bad? Not in a way of saying invalidating your experience, but just begin to dig. What is it about this that I'm feeling so deeply? Is there a fear that underlies this disappointment? Is there an anger that underlies this disappointment? Is there a confusion that underlies this disappointment? And so you begin to kind of allow yourself to dig. What did this mean to me? What did that promotion mean to me? Well, that promotion meant that I would finally get enough money that I would be able to take my kids on vacation. And now it seems like that's been ripped away from me. And I'm so sad, because I'm desperately trying to be a mom that allows her kids to have experiences, right? Or what does this mean to me? It means to me that people voted in a way that I thought was against my humanity. That's what that meant to me. It meant that people that I thought would vote in an interest to help me actually voted against something that would help me. So those types of things, you're asking yourself those questions. What did that mean to me? And then you have to ask yourself, what are my expectations? Are they realistic? Did these people that I expected to do this, did they agree to do this? Have they shown a history of doing this for me? Do they show a history of this thing? Did I set my expectation in the wrong place? All of these types of questions, right? Is there an opportunity for me to be self-reflective? And the answer is going to be yes, of course. Looking for ways that you can reframe your thinking is healthy. Okay, so I can't control how people vote. I cannot control what they do when they go into the booth. I can't control that they did not give me that job. What can I control? And you start to look in a more empowering perspective. Okay. Asking yourself the right questions are very important, because sometimes we'll look at and we'll say, I keep getting disappointed, and I think this is what happened for a lot of people, again, specifically Black women, I think this is what happened because they said, I keep advocating for everybody's rights. And it feels like when it's time for someone to advocate for my rights, it doesn't happen. Let me know if I'm talking to y'all. Talk to me in the comments. Let me hear you. I need to hear and see you. See those comments rather. Again, so you're looking at, it felt like for a lot of people to say, man, we stand up for the rights of so many different people. And now I'm feeling like no one is standing up for that right. So then you have to be, again, more self-reflective. Why am I standing up for all these rights when there is no reciprocity? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you to start asking the right questions. Why am I putting my whole life on the line for people who would not put their toenail on the line for me? Asking yourselves the right questions. What is it on the inside of me that makes me feel like I have to take care of everybody else? I have to put out every fire that pops up. I have to be the superhero for every cause. What is it on the inside of me that is doing that? Why do I do that? Is that a good thing for me to continue? If the answer is no, there's time for some adjustments. Evelyn says, yes, but we're still the most unprotected, which means there may be some changes that have to take place where we have to go, I'm going to have to stop trying to protect everybody else and start looking for ways that we protect ourselves. Yes, Karen says, have I been setting myself on fire to keep other people warm? Oftentimes you see that when people are disappointed. And again, I'm not just talking about the election stuff. I'm talking in general. But I hear people say all the time, I keep expecting them to do what I would do. Stop that. They didn't agree to do what you would do. And sometimes you agreeing to do the things that you do are actually not healthy for you. Set some boundaries, right? And so sometimes we get disappointed because we're expecting people to do things that they never actually agreed to do. So it is important that we stop and we say, let me ask the right questions. How can I help myself in this situation? How can I, Sinitra, if you feel overcooked, tell me a little more what that means. Again, why am I showing up for people who don't show reciprocity in my life? Is this a pattern that I have? These are things for us to be able to stop and look at, right? Because sometimes we are advocating for everybody, like let's save the whales, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and literally when it's time for us to take care of ourselves, we have absolutely spent all of our energy. Okay, so the next part is learning how to cope for moving forward. Learning how to cope for moving forward. What does that mean? Giving yourself some compassion. Hey, you did the best you could do. Be patient, be kind to yourself, and taking care of yourself. I know that there were a lot of women who did some stress eating. Let me know who was stress eating yesterday after the results. Who was stress eating? So that is actually what we don't want us doing things out of anxiety, but go, you know what? I am feeling really stressed. I'm going to go and I'm going to go take a walk. One of the things that we can do when we're talking about coping strategies, one of the main coping strategies that we can do is to take care of ourselves physically. I'm going to go for a walk. I woke up on the election was Tuesday. Wednesday morning, I went worked out. Wednesday afternoon, I was walking. Why? I think it was Wednesday afternoon. I know I work out. So Sinitra says she hasn't been eating. So Sinitra, you actually may need to go eat. You may need to say, I know my body's feeling tight, but I'm going to allow myself a moment to feel this. I'm going to release it. And then I'm going to go and eat an apple. I'm not saying you have to eat something big, but you need to actually get up and go and eat something that is going to fuel your body. One of the ways that we deal with disappointment is to make sure that we don't allow disappointment to cause us to neglect taking care of ourselves. The next thing is encourage yourself with the same kindness and compassion that you would someone else. Encourage yourself with the same compassion and kindness you would with someone else. Good job, Karen. Karen said she did not stress eat. Great job. There were definitely moments I wanted to stress eat, and I just decided no. Okay, Sheila, that's good. Sheila said, I felt foolish for actually believing that our nation would do differently this time. Okay. So I think in that moment to say our nation has shown some times where there was some greatness. So I don't have to necessarily feel foolish. I just have to say, what did I see that showed me that there may be people that would not do things the way I wanted them to do them. And you don't have to be oblivious to think that everybody is going to vote. Obviously, we wouldn't need a vote if everybody thought the same way, right? So you knew that there were going to be people that opposed your views. You knew that there were going to be people that did not agree with what you wanted the outcome of that election to be. And so you don't have to feel foolish. I think you have to just go, I was hopeful. I was hopeful that the nation would vote this way. I'm disappointed that the nation did not vote this way. Okay. I'm disappointed because I looked at things and I thought I saw some momentum in this way. And I thought it was a very strong possibility that the outcome may be different. I don't think you have to feel foolish. I think you have to just go, I was disappointed. I really hoped that would be a different outcome. Because now the reason I'm challenging the word foolish is because that's the compassion part of it. When we're talking about ourselves, we often assign something negative, like I must be a fool to believe that this nation would do that. Or you could have said, I was hopeful and I was disappointed, right? Because you would show more compassion if you were talking to someone else. You wouldn't say that they were foolish. You would probably give them more compassion. So I'm asking you to do the same thing for yourself. It's not necessarily that you were foolish. I think it's a matter of you were hopeful, and that's where the disappointment came, right? Because you did believe that things were going to be different. So I want you to give yourself some compassion. It says, I did feel pride looking at the numbers from Black women. It was a reminder that my sisters were there for me and they felt the hope that I felt. Oh, I love that. That's a great, she had a reframe. So Veronica's reframe is different from Sheila's first way of thinking, because Sheila said, I was a fool for thinking that. Veronica said, but I looked and I saw, you know what? Black women showed up for a Black woman and for Black women. And that was really nice to see. Even though the result in totality was not what I wanted, it was nice to see when you looked at that number that Black women showed up the way they said they were going to show up, right? And so I think that is important. I like that refrain. Then the other thing, though, is begin to set realistic boundaries, okay? So you begin to say, when you're talking about elections, most people, if you're thinking timelines and you're looking at stuff, most people hang out with people who think like them. And so everybody in your circle is talking about supporting a certain person. Everybody in this circle is talking about supporting a certain person. So you can begin to think things are going to be a certain way because everyone that you talk to are in that way. So I think when we're talking about realistic expectations, you have to look at things from a broader perspective to get an idea of what's realistic. Now, that's more with election stuff. But if you're talking outside of election stuff, just begin. Is this a realistic expectation based on the person's ability, based on their willingness, based on their capacity, based on their capability? Is this a realistic expectation? If you are expecting a person who does not have any or very little emotional intelligence to be emotionally intelligent towards you, that is an unrealistic expectation. If you are expecting someone who does not have communication skills to have a great conversation with you about a tough matter, that is an unrealistic expectation. And so you have to set hey, my expectation is they don't have a lot of skills. And so I may have to break this conversation up into multiple steps in order not to overwhelm them or not to be overwhelmed myself when they start blowing up, and we're going to have to do this differently. So I think setting realistic expectations is important. Talk about the importance of setting goals in those meetings or those conversations. Like, let's talk about what goals we have. Why are we both here? What do we want to accomplish? And then do manageable steps to build that confidence in yourself or the situation. Have some manageable steps. Again, with the election, for example, a lot of people are like, okay, we have to go back and figure out what happened. I was actually having a conversation with my husband and just kind of talking about different things that could have impacted different parts with the election, right? And so I think this is an opportunity for people to go back and say, okay, so for whichever campaign, or for the Harris campaign in particular, to go back and say, all right, let's look at this. What happened? What were good things? What were some things that we missed? What were some things that we need to grow from. That comes from having and developing or adopting a growth mindset, which is actually the next thing we need to do. So set realistic expectations and adapt or adopt a growth mindset. And what is a growth mindset? A growth mindset doesn't get stuck on what didn't happen or what can't happen. A growth mindset is constantly looking for how we can make things better, how we can grow from an experience. And so looking at this, okay, how do I make adjustments in my life so that I don't continue to be disappointed? How can I make these adjustments? Some of the things that people were talking about finances. So now is the time for you to say, I need to make some different decisions with my finances so that if things do get hard in an area, I'm going to have some cushion here. I'm going to be able to do this. I have to make adjustments. And I think that comes from a growth mindset rather than staying stuck in the disappointment. You take that disappointment, you feel that disappointment, and you say, how do I learn from this disappointment? Okay. So I think that's really important. Here are some things that help you to develop a more resilient mindset. A more resilient mindset. The first thing is to is to start working with gratitude. What are you thankful for? And I know that sounds cheesy, but begin to stop. Why is that? Because the disappointment can start to cause us to feel the anger. And so when you start looking at the gratitude piece, and again, I'm not talking about rushing and skipping over the actual feeling of it and allowing yourself to be upset. Okay. But once you say, okay, I've felt that, I've allowed myself to be angry, I've allowed that, I'm kind of coming out of that place. Well, I want to be grateful for whatever the situation. I'm grateful that I had this opportunity. I'm grateful that I have this community I can talk to about it. I'm grateful that I have this friend that who also understands the disappointment that I can talk to and kind of process. You look at those things. Focus on your strengths. What are some strengths that I have to help me moving forward? Again, look like if you're promoted in a friendship that it turned out in another way. What things do I have that can help me moving forward? Do I need to learn to set boundaries? That kind of stuff. And then explore ways that you can, again, maintain positive support system and take care of yourself. I keep coming back to that part. Take care of yourself, because so many of us don't do that very well. When we're disappointed, we turn to unhealthy ways. I'm going to go get a cigarette. I'm going to go eat. I'm going to go cry all day. Cry all day one day. Don't let that become your lifestyle where you just get into a victim mindset. And that's what disappointment tends to try to do. Once it comes and it'll sit, if you don't allow yourself to feel it so that you can actually release it, you will get stuck in it, and you will constantly be saying all the stuff like, no, someone even said it, we're not protected. You can get stuck in that place and allow that to absolutely take you to a place of depression, because you start looking around everywhere you go. See, we're not protected over there. See, we're not protected over there. And you start looking for the places where you're not protected, as opposed to looking for the places where you are protected. Right. And so I understand when I was walking and having conversations with my husband, I was so thankful. And I thought that I was like, I am so thankful that I actually have a space that I can talk to a Black man who supports and protects and understands, our perspective. And so instead of looking for the places where you're not protected, looking for the places where you are protected, looking for the places where you can be empowered. Okay, so that didn't work out. What can I do? I did a live, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about election anxiety. And I had someone and we were talking about ways to feel empowered. So if you didn't get the results you wanted, maybe you go, okay, so I've got some time. What can I do to help so that in 4 years, I'm not in this situation? Do I need to run for public office? Do I need to do something? Do I need to start campaigning for a group of people? Do I need to join an organization? Doing things that actually empower you so that you're not feeling stuck. Because again, that disappointment can be real heavy, and it can make you feel like there is no help or no hope. Okay. The other thing is to be able to accept some things aren't necessarily about to change. Okay. Some things aren't going to change, or you don't have control. I guess I should say it that way. You don't have control over certain things. And learning how to accept the things you don't have control over, and then looking at the stuff that you do have control over. I don't have control over the fact that my neighbor didn't vote the way I wanted them to vote. But what I do have control over is if I start volunteering for a campaign and I start canvassing the neighborhood, or I start calling people, or I start educating myself on different things, or I run for office, you have control over those types of things, right? You have control over how you interact with people who do things that are disappointing to you. Do you continue to put yourself in a situation where you are disappointed? Do you continue to allow those people in your space? And you may say, well, I work with people and they disappointed me. Okay. You actually don't have to continue to have the same type of relationship. I'm not saying you have to be nasty to people. I'm saying you can set boundaries and say, I'm not going to talk about this. I have to work here, but I'm not going to talk about certain topics with these people because I know that that is something that may trigger me. Sheila said, I said foolish because I think I've been hopeful too many times in this area only to be disappointed. I think my expectations for our nation were unrealistic. I'm not being unkind to myself. I'm acknowledging and feeling my feelings and assessing what I need to do differently. I should have been hopeful for change, but I should not have believed that change was here. I'm very thankful that Black women came together in support. It was beautiful to see. I'm grateful for our past, I think. Again, Sheila, I think you can be, I don't know if it was, I still don't think it was just foolishness to think that we couldn't do it. But I understand what you're saying. I do. And so I do think being hopeful and being disappointed that's not where we are. I think that's an absolute, you have a right to your feelings, right? But to say it's foolish, I think people thought it was foolish when Barack Obama was elected, because I don't think many people thought that was going to happen initially. Or heck, maybe even to the end. I don't know if people truly saw it was like, oh yeah. And then when it happened, people were like, whoa, I can't believe that actually happened. And so I don't think that it was necessarily foolish, but I can understand you saying, maybe I'm not going to set an expectation that we're there until there is actually, I'm going to be hopeful and I'm going to know that the results may or may not go the way that I want them to go. And I'll be okay. And I'll be prepared as much as I can be when they don't go that way. So again, strategies for preventing future disappointments. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about ways that we can try to prevent future disappointments. Number one is look at your expectations. Adjust them if you need to. Adjust expectations. So many times I've seen with parents or with family members when someone will say, I think my mom is going to do right by me, but mom has never done right by me the last however many years. And then they come and they're disappointed when mom, again, does not do right by them. So to me, I would say, adjust the expectation. Mom has shown you for 40 years that she's not willing to do right. She's not willing to acknowledge her. I actually was just in a big family session recently. And it was one of those situations where the parents were not willing to take any responsibility for their role. And I think you have to be willing to say, this person has not shown either the willingness or the capability to take responsibility. I'm not going to continue. I don't have to beat myself up and I don't have to say I'm stupid for expecting it. I think we have to be able to say, but I'm no longer going to expect this person to be able to help me or meet these particular needs. Sometimes we have to adjust that expectation, and the expectation may be legitimate or reasonable, but it may be unreasonable when you're talking about a specific person. For an example, I want someone who will be supportive of me. Okay, great. Nothing wrong with that expectation. You may be expecting it from someone who's not willing to do that. So you may have to say, I'm keeping my expectation the same, that someone will be supportive, but I'm not expecting it to be my brother. I'm expecting other people who have shown up for me in the past, who have shown me that they will be supportive, to be supportive. I think even business owners do this a lot. You see them getting really angry and disappointed because their family members are not their primary customer base. Number one, you can't build a business if you're just your family is your primary customer base. Number one. Number two, you have to know that just because your family doesn't buy your product doesn't mean other people won't. And so if you're expecting my family's going to support me, you can say, hey, it's nice if my family supports me, but I am not going to rely on just my family to be the people to get the word out. I'm going to advertise to all types of people. I'm going to provide good customer service. I'm going to do these things because that is how my business is going to grow. Then your expectation, you don't get so disappointed when your cousin doesn't buy your product. You say, hey, if they do, cool. But if they don't, I've got 50 other people lined up to buy this product. Okay. Then we again talk about how you have to have some explore those realistic expectations. Are they aligned with reality? This reduces the chances of disappointment. Okay. Open communication. I think that's important. We have to be willing to have big, important conversations. We have to be willing to have big, important conversations. I was talking to someone recently, and they were talking about wishing other groups would have um, been more supportive during the election process. Okay. And then someone said something that stood out to me, and they said, um, we've got to be willing to look at our own selves and see where and how we're supporting one another. Right. And so you have to be willing to have those realistic, sometimes uncomfortable conversations. We talked about this earlier. Another strategy for preventing future disappointment is to set boundaries. Set boundaries. Going into an election, say, I don't have a way to predict the outcome, so I'm not going to go in saying I know what the outcome is going to be. I'm going to be hopeful and know that it can go either way. Going into promotion, I think I have a good chance, but it could go either way. Yeah, as a believer, if God is giving you a word, I think that's very different than you're just staking your claim on something out of hope. Number 3, practicing gratitude. Gratitude helps us to reshift our focus. Sinitra, hold on. I want us to do an activity at the end. Gratitude begins to shift our focus from disappointment to enhance overall well-being. Again, when you stop and you go, I'm so glad I have a space that I can talk about this. I'm so glad I have a space where I can feel. I'm so glad that I've still have this. I'm so glad I have the ability to do this. And that begins to shift the focus from the disappointment. One of the things that I started doing as I was walking yesterday, still very much feeling the emotions from the day, releasing stuff from the clients that I had worked with and all of that stuff. I was walking, and when I started going over my gratitude list and in my head, one of the things I started thanking God for, our pastors have been teaching about favor. Well before this election, well before any of that, they started teaching about favor. And I started going, oh, I am so grateful that they gave us that message about favor before it was a thing that we really needed to tap into. I was like, that was a perfect segue or setup to deal with disappointment, because one of the key things that they taught us in that message or in those series of messages was that favor shows up in adversity. Favor is an opportunity. I'm sorry, adversity is an opportunity for favor. And so I started rehearsing that, right? And so my gratitude list of I'm glad for the teaching led me to start focusing on what I was actually taught, which led to a different mindset, which ultimately raised my my mentality and kind of gave me a greater sense of hope. Doesn't mean you have to go from disappointed to I'm bouncing off the roof. I'm not saying that. No one's asking us to pretend, but we're saying walk through the process. And the more you walk through that process, you begin to shed off some of the layers of the anger, right? That hard shell stuff that kind of we carry along with us. So here's what I want us to do, if you can. I want you guys to allow yourself to actually sit back and breathe. So if you will just have a seat wherever you are, if you can. Some of you may be working and may not be able to do this, but if you can, have a seat. I want you to lay your head back on your chair or whatever. Just kind of lay your head back. I want you to put your feet up. Now I want you to take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Allow your body to feel that disappointment and tension release. I want you to do that again. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Allow your body to release that tension. Give yourself permission to release the tension. Give yourself permission to release the tension. And then I want you to say out loud, if you can, 3 times, it is safe for me to take care of myself. It is safe for me to take care of myself. Take another deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Go ahead and say this one too. Say, there are people out there that care about me. Say that 3 times. Allow yourself to feel that. There are people out there that care about me. Here's the last affirmation for you to say. I care about me. It's safe for you to rest, sis. It's safe for you to sit down and say, I've been doing a lot. Sinitra said, I'm exhausted. Sit down. You've been doing a lot. Take a deep breath. Let yourself feel and release. Allow yourself to feel it and release. And trust the favor of God. Trust all the things that you study. Trust God in that moment. And then figure out what your game plan is, right? Trusting God doesn't mean you sit idly by and keep being disappointed. Figure out, what am I going to do that empowers myself, that empowers my community, that empowers whatever my goal is. What is my game plan? And for many of us on here and that may watch this replay, your game plan probably needs to be, I'm not rescuing everybody. I'm not on the front line for every cause that doesn't affect me. I'm not, because I have to have some energy for me. Even if that's practically once a month, I'm going to go get a massage. If that's, I'm going to start walking in the evenings or in the mornings, or I'm going to start drinking more water. I'm going to take care of me. I am going to prioritize me. Tell me how y'all feeling after doing that little breathing exercise. Tell me how you're feeling. Let me hear from you. And let me know if you have any questions. We're almost at the end, so I do want to answer any questions that people may be having. Sinitra says, thank you. I'm so glad for this today. I need to get outside and read the guiding word and listen to the word on favor again. I am processing, but refuse to be stuck here. Yeah, a lot of people asked me yesterday how I was feeling. And I was like, I'm still processing my feelings. And that was like, I'm still processing my feelings. That's all I have for them. Like I'm still processing. I don't have everything lined out in a box. And even today, I don't think I'm like, now, do I feel differently than I did yesterday? I do. I feel better today. I feel lighter today than I did yesterday. Absolutely. I feel better today than I did on yesterday. But there are still, as far as that game plan part, it's like, okay, so what are we going to do with this information? How are we going to make some life changes? And that part is still, I'm still unfolding what that looks like. You know, it may be less spending in certain areas, and go, I'm going to really work on my savings because that's going to be important for our life moving forward. Money always helps us to have more options. So I need to prioritize. I'm talking for myself now. I need to prioritize having some cash, having more cash, right? I need to prioritize this thing. I need to prioritize these things. And so it may be for some people say, I have to prioritize my health. I'm going to have to prioritize my health. What if things change in the healthcare system? I need to prioritize taking care of myself so that I don't have to be so reliant on a system that may not be able to help me. Right. And that's what we're talking. When we're talking about that game plan, we're talking real practical. What do I need to do so that I can be in a better space based on what may or may not come? Yeah, very good, Sheila. I'm glad you're feeling better. Yeah, you said you need to help you relax your shoulders. Wherever the tension is in your body, if you feel tension in your body, tell me where you're feeling the tension in your body. Sheila relaxed her shoulders, but everybody kind of holds tension in a different space. And so finding that space where you feel tension and relax those muscles in that space. Sometimes I recommend, actually, depending on where it is in your body, that you actually tense that part of your body and then release it while you're kind of like, I'm real tight and I hold it for a few moments and then I just slowly release it. Your body will feel the difference from when you were really tense to when you were calmer. And your body needs to remember that we are not supposed to be this tight. And so your body will give you signs. Hey, you need to take a deep breath. You need to relax. This was good, right? Um, yes, Sinitra, you need to go walk. If you're Sinitra says she's feeling physically nauseous, you need to go walk and probably talk to God. One of the things I don't know how long you've been on. One of the things we talked about was that those self-reflection questions. What is it about this? What did this mean to me? This disappointment that I'm feeling in my body. What did this mean to me? Because for some people, let's have a little conversation. For some people, it triggered for a lot of women. I saw this multiple times on social media. It triggered the idea, there you go, that I let my daughter down. For a lot of women, it triggered the idea of, I remember going after something that I was qualified for and it didn't happen. And so the loss of the election for many women actually triggered this idea that nothing has changed, that I won't ever be able to achieve this thing, or my kids won't be able to achieve this thing. There is no way we can get higher than this. They have put us in a place, and it triggers this sense of containment for many people. That's why you felt like you let your daughter down. Number one, your vote did not let your daughter down. Okay. Number two, the system show, oh man, it starts to go, I can't do this. But then that's why it's important that you can get those answers, because then you know how to combat that. If you're feeling triggered because, oh man, I feel like I let my daughter down, go, but God's favor is still with me. So even though Kamala may not have won this election, God, I'm trusting favor, and I'm declaring for my children favor over their life. I'm declaring favor in this situation. And even this is working out for the good. I want you guys to remember that Kamala ran for president before. Her campaign didn't get much traction at all. Not at all. Now, I mean, it got a little buzz, but not like this campaign did, right? She went ahead and she kept doing what she was supposed to do, meaning helping to do things with the government. She kept doing those things. She got picked up as a VP, right? And then the next thing we know, she is put into a position where she is the number one candidate for the presidential nomination. So even though it looked like it was a bad thing, and frankly, if we're honest, she didn't have very much time to campaign. She didn't have much time at all to campaign. So a lot of this is, okay, guess what? This time she didn't have a lot of time. she's got some time to get some stuff together, and it's not over yet. And so if you can start to see it from, if you can answer those questions for yourself of what does that mean to me? It means I let my daughter down. Okay. Is it over? Is it too late for her to ever be president again? What, and you begin to say, okay, what can we do differently? How can I instill that favor and showing my child it there are still some ceilings that need to be broken, but there are some ceilings that have been broken. Let's look at those ceilings that have been broken. Okay. Let's look at the ceilings that are going to be broken, and we're going to not take it as defeat in the sense of forever. Right? You didn't let your daughter down. You showed your child that you were supportive, that you exercised your right to vote. You showed your child all of those things, but you're showing her that disappointment is going to come in life, and we're going to deal with it in a healthy way, and we're going to be better. We're going to move forward in a better way. But yeah, it's something for some of you. Honestly, you may need to. Yeah, she's made history, absolutely. And some people you may need to set up time to talk with a coach or a counselor or somebody to kind of help you process on a deeper level, kind of what's going on and what it all symbolizes for you. I remember clients coming in being very, very upset because they were abuse of sexual assault, and they felt that society had protected someone who did the same thing that their offender did, and it felt like a slap in their face. Right? This was I didn't have that this time around, but I can remember that in the last election. And so I think it's just really, really important that you are able to answer that question of what does this disappointment mean? That way, the right things to begin to, the best way to begin to attack it. Right? So if you think you have the flu, but you're rubbing Vicks on your hand, you're doing something, but you're not doing the thing that's actually going to help with the right issue. So you have to be able to identify what the issue is. You got to be able to identify what the real issue is, because that Vicks on your hand is not going to eliminate all those flu symptoms. You need to do something different. Right? And so I think that really is important. So I would definitely say, Sinitra, go take your walk, talk to God, spend some time being self-reflective while incorporating Holy Spirit. Talk to me too. Show me why that is, and show me the error. And the other part, I didn't talk about it a lot. Sometimes we have to get in there and confront our thinking in the middle of that, right? So the thinking is, I was solely responsible for getting her elected. No, my job was to vote. My job was to be informed, to make the decision that I thought was best for me, and to move forward. Your job was not to change everybody else's mind in the whole U.S. It just wasn't. Karen says, remember when Coach Sean said, daughters, we are daughters of the Most High before we are Black. We have got to hold on to that. It's got to take some time to shift to that. But that's where I'm trying to place my mindset. So though, again, those are things that you walk through, kind of taking your time, walking through. Okay, yeah, I didn't like that, but that doesn't mean that this is over. And I was thinking yesterday, I was listening to the book of Esther. I don't know what day that was. Someday this week, I was walking and listening to the book of Esther. And I was thinking, sometimes we forget some of the things that the people in the Bible, when we read about them, we forget the actual situation that they were in. When we read about Daniel and the Daniel fast, and we're like, oh, that's so cool. Daniel was a captive. When we're reading about that, I need people to understand Daniel was not in a positive situation. God showed up in the middle of what seemed to be a disappointing situation. When Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego were put in a fiery furnace, they were captive. They were captured. They were not free men just running. These people say, hey, if you don't do what we're telling you to do, you're going to have to go in there. There are some things that, because it's happening, we start to get so down and we start to feel like it's over. But again, I'm going to say it again, and I'll probably end with this. Adversity is an amazing opportunity for favor. So spending time with God and go, okay, God, show me what I need to be doing to position myself for the favor. Allow yourself to feel, acknowledge your feelings, begin to learn how to deal with the underlying, you know, the depth of why it bothers you so much. And there may be a lot. Don't get me wrong. It may not just be one simple little answer of, I didn't want to let my daughter down. It might go deeper as you start going. It may be deeper, but God, show me how to address each one of these things. Show me where my thinking may be off. Show me all of, you know, this stuff. Show me how to process this in a healthy way so that I can be empowered and you can show up in a mighty way. All right, that's all I got. Thank y'all so much for talking to me. It always makes it so much easier when y'all are communicating with me. So again, make sure that you are not getting stuck. Make sure you're not stuck. Make sure you are prepared for shifts. Sinitra, go walk. You can even send me a message when you're done. Let me know how you're feeling. If you guys have any questions or anything, let me know. Y'all make sure you come back next week. I have my wonderful sister, Kimberly Dennis, next week. She's going to be talking about her recovery story. You don't want to miss that. I think it's going to be amazing. We are in a group together called Inner Circle, and Kim is such an amazing person. And I look forward to hearing her story of recovery. I think she's going to drop a bunch of gems to help so many people if they are struggling with any type of addiction or anything like that. So make sure you set your reminders, your alarm, so that you will join us right back here next Thursday at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, where we are tearing down stigma of mental health. Yes, Karen, it's going to be so good. And we're bringing awareness to our community. Thank you guys so much. Share this broadcast. I know we're at the end, but go ahead and share it so somebody may be able to catch the replay a little bit later. I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye. Love you, Sheila.